the build-up to the Bloodline versus the Brawling Brutes, Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens, the specific in-match story really started on SmackDown when you had Jey Uso catching Sami Zayn talking to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens was sitting there saying, these guys don't have your back. I do. I'm your best friend, blah, blah, blah. Jey Uso saw this happening, main event Jey. And he said, hey, Sami, have you been talking to anybody today? And Sami said, no, not a soul, just you. He was lying. Jey Uso knew he was lying. He said, all right, dog, okay, we good. We weren't good, though. We get to the main event. Because of Sami's distraction, Jey gets distracted. He ends up eating the pin. He loses the Bloodline's advantage. Is it Jey's fault? Is it Sami's fault? Was it intentional? Does Roman know? We don't know. But when we get to Survivor Series, we see Jey talking to Roman, and Roman says, I'm going to talk to Sami, and I'm going to know. And Roman talks to Sami. And this is like what's making the Bloodline story the best story in modern day professional wrestling is the little things. Roman has this ability with his face right now. The facial expressions that Roman makes are just out of this world incredible right now. It started last night when Roman is talking to Sami, and Sami is justifying himself, and Sami deserves an Emmy for the stuff that he's doing right now. But he's explaining that how much it means to him that this family, that the Bloodline is a family, and that family has welcomed Sami in, and none of it's lost on him, and he's pouring his heart out. And it feels like Roman believes him. And then Sami gives him this hug, and the camera's on Roman's face. And Roman has this subtlety where he shuts his eyes, but when Roman hugs, right, Roman asks for the hug. And when Roman asks for hugs, or when Roman offers affection, he's doing it in this mentally abusive way where it's like he just treats them like garbage, makes them jump through hoops to prove their loyalty to him, makes them do exactly what he says, no matter what, and then gives them this hug and has this face like, see, I'm a good guy. And he gives Sami this hug, and it's almost like in the hug, he has this realization. Like he feels the way Sami is hugging him, and his eyes just go up. And he doesn't like make big cartoon eyes. He doesn't like roll in the back of his head. He doesn't start scowling and show his teeth. He just has this very serious, emotionless impression on his face. Like everything drops out of his face. And all of a sudden, he's come to a realization, and we go, oh no. And the match starts. We go to War Games. And the match starts with Jey and Butch in the ring. And the buzzer goes off. And Jimmy gets ready to go out. And Roman holds Jimmy back. And he sends Sami in. Because he wants to prove Sami's loyalty. And if Sami is going to screw them up, he would rather Sami screw them up early than later in the match. He's a puppeteer. He's a mental manipulator. He wants Jey and Sami to be in the position where they are forced to work together. He knows that they can't stand each other. He knows the problems they have with each other. But he wants the two of them to be forced to work together. And they do. And Sami goes through all these moments where he's saving Jey. And every time he does, he shows Jey, you see what I'm doing here, right? You see what I'm doing here, right? At one point, the ring is filled up, and Sami eats a super kick from Jey Uso. Now, the kick wasn't intended for Sami, but Jey kind of shrugs it off, like that's on him. And when Jimmy goes to try to help Sami, Jey stops Jimmy and says, no, don't help him. Do not help him. and Sammy's out. And we're all kind of thinking, and I was reading it on Twitter, everybody's kind of wondering, is this going to be the moment, right? Because I think people have telecast this story to be going in a direction where it's the Usos versus Sami and Kevin Owens. So we get to this point where Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens finally get hands on each other. And this is the thing that Roman does, and he's done this in a lot of matches, but I've never pointed it out because it's never hit me like it did last night. Roman has this magnificent way of when he gets hit with that first strike, he has this look on his face of like, it's pain, he's selling it, but it's also, it's shock, it's befuddlement. He cannot believe that this person got any offense in, and he cannot believe that he feels pain. Roman is in utter shock that he's feeling pain. Roman has got this ego to this point where he's literally going into matches under the working assumption that his opponents will provide no offense coming his way, that it will simply be a beatdown. And when it doesn't happen, and he did this with Logan Paul too, he's done it many times, but it's an amazing face. It always happens at the beginning of the match. The first time Roman takes punishment, he has this look of shock, and it's unbelievable. But it gets to the point, KO gets Roman down, and he gets him down for the cover. 1, 2, and Sami jumps in and hooks arm so he doesn't allow the referee to count to 3. Now what's great, and then Kevin Owens looks at Sami and he goes, I can't believe you did that, you unbelievable piece of you-know-what. And Sami looks at Kevin Owens going, this is what I'm doing. I'm sorry, but I'm doing it. What's beautiful about this moment is you still go, what side is Sami on? Sami could have easily jumped in and physically removed Kevin Owens from Roman Reigns. But they did the genius thing of building up the point when Sami would come into physical contact with Kevin Owens. They're not going to waste it on that moment. They're going to save it. And when Sami, the real moment is when Sami hits Kevin Owens with that low blow. Kevin backs into the corner, and now you see where this is going. Sami, detail, goes down to Roman for approval. You see what I'm doing now, my tribal chief? You see what I'm doing? Roman acknowledges Sami. I see what you're doing. Yes. He shakes his head. Yes. Nods. And that's when Sami hits KO with the haluva kick. And then he sees Jay, and Jay sees him. And Sami drags Kevin Owens into position and leaves him for Jay. Go ahead, do your thing. Jay hits that frog splash, and Jay gets the pinfall victory over Kevin Owens. And the Bloodline win War Games. In my heart, I was like, okay, I hope Sami Zayn gets in Jay's face, or I hope he shoves Jay, or I hope he tells Jay, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. But instead, Jay embraces Sami, and Sami accepts the embrace. And this feeling rushed over me that I had no idea I would feel. I loved it. I was like, this is it. And this is what's so great about this story, that I think that a lot of people had this going a lot of different ways, right? But a lot of people thought that the Bloodline would leave War Games fractured for whatever storyline reason, be it that Sami Zayn turned on the Bloodline and went to Kevin Owens, be it that Jey Uso turned on Sami, be it that the Bloodline turned on Jay. Something would happen here. I think most people did not expect the Bloodline to leave War Games victorious and stronger than ever. I also feel like for instance, thought that after Sami had proved his loyalty, that Jay would get his comeuppance. Instead, we got an embrace. And it's very rare in wrestling that something like that happens. You saw a story going a certain way, and you were like, it would be perfect if they did this. And then they do something else, and you go, oh no, that's perfect. That's the way it should be done. My way was worse. I love it when that happens. When you see it, that's the way wrestling stories are supposed to be told. You see it happening a certain way, and then it goes off this way, and you realize, oh, that direction was right. I didn't even see there was a road there. Just beautiful. All the little nuance piped in. The fact that Roman was the one making those calls. The fact that Roman sat in the chair in the middle of the shark cage. I just love where it's going. And I love what we got with that storyline. I think that what you saw at War Games was what professional wrestling is at its finest, which is great storytelling. And nothing will have you leaving an arena buzzing more than a beautifully told story.